let's talk about oil pastels. Okay, the first thing I want you to know, if you have not used oil pastels before, they are messy. So just accept that fact, they are messy. I like to have a paper towel next to me while I'm working so I can kind of wipe my fingers as they start to get really dirty. Also, you're gonna wanna keep your hands and your arm off of your paper as you're working, because if you're resting your arm, like, you're gonna smudge it everywhere. It's gonna get all over your arm. Sometimes if you want, like, if you wanna rest your arm, you could put a paper towel down over it. So just, you wanna be careful as you are doing your oil pastels that you don't smudge the whole thing as you're working. So here's what I want you to do. I would like, if possible, you to start with your background first and then move forward. So basically, I have my sky here. I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna start with my little curvy mountain, and I'm gonna leave the stuff towards the front of the picture till the last. Generally, when we paint background, we do all our backgrounds, and then we move through the layers till we get to our front part. So, I mean, it's not mandatory or anything, but it is a good strategy to use when you're doing your oil pastels. I'm actually gonna flip this upside down because I'm gonna start with my sky here. Now, if you remember, Tim Burton has a lot of dark muted tones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna blend a black and a dark blue for my sky. Oil pastels are a lot like paint. They blend really well. So I'm going to start just adding some black, couple black spots. And I'm just gonna do a little bit at a time so the video isn't an hour long. And then I have my blue oil pastel, and I'm going to start coloring over my black here to blend these two colors together. And as I go, my black is gonna be carried down a little bit by the blue, and it's going to make this nice blend. And as I go, if I see areas I want more black, I just go ahead and add it in there. Like, I don't like how blue this is, so I'm gonna add a little bit of black here. And then I'm gonna blend over it. You almost wanna have layers of oil pastel. And you don't ever really wanna do one color because it doesn't look as nice. You wanna blend. Okay, so I think you can kind of see, and then if I want it darker, I can add more black on top and keep going. You kind of have to just play around with it until you get something that you like. If you think you make a mistake, just keep going. And then I'm blending all that black in with the blue. Okay, so there's a little example of part of the background. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want your oil pastels to look like this. Just a real thin kind of layer. You don't want to see any of the gray through the paper, with the exception of your selfie, because we're using values here and we want this gray paper showing through. So you want to make sure you have your paper completely covered. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is, like, let's do this pumpkin. And again, I'm going to do it upside down just because it's easier for me to do. So Tim Burton is known for those little pops of color he does in his movies. And I lost my yellow. So we're going to improvise. Oh, my yellow is right there, I didn't lose it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with that bright yellow, but then I'm gonna kind of tone it down because it's Tim Burton style and I don't want this to be super colorful. So I'm gonna do kind of like this jack-o'-lantern where the light is shining through. And you can notice I'm not being perfect with the color. And then I'm gonna add this black around it to blend in with the orange pumpkin to make the pumpkin or the jack-o'-lantern have a little bit of a darker, kind of more sinister look. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my orange and I'm just gonna put it in this black here, and I'm gonna blend it out so that my orange definitely has this darker, more muted tone to it. You can see how that's kind of blending up nicely, and I'm gonna now go back and add some more yellow. It's kind of a back and forth, and darken this one up too. So you want to make sure you are blending colors when you are using your oil pastels. It's kind of the whole point. It creates a much nicer piece of art. Okay, so you can see how we kind of have these darker areas. And then I think I'm even going to outline my pumpkin black. I'm just gonna lightly add some black here and then blend it together. Just so it's darker. Since I have that bright yellow, I don't want a lot of bright orange. Add some green. And see, that's just way too bright. I don't like how that looks, so I'm gonna add some black and blend it up so it kind of matches the rest of the pumpkin. Okay, so let's talk about what you can do. So let's look at my white. My white is full of black, and I want to do the eyes, and I want the eyes to be pretty white. So what you can do is you can take a piece of scratch paper. I'm going to use the back of this for now, and you can clean off your pastel, especially this top part. You kind of have to get all those other colors off. This is just the nature of the beast. This is what happens. Okay, so that is looking pretty white. So now I can go in, and I'm gonna do my face, or part of my face, just as an example. So now I can go in with my white, and see, it broke. It happens. As they get smaller, they break. Don't worry about that. You did not do anything wrong. And I'm really gonna color my white in good. I do this kind of circular motion, and it helps cover the paper more. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in with my black, and I'm gonna do the pupil, and I'm gonna do a little bit of shading. So I have my pupil here. I'm gonna outline. Let's get my eyelashes in there. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is actually, let me just take my paper towel, and I'm gonna bring some of that black into this white area so that it has some shading. And then I'm gonna smooth this out, because I don't want any harsh lines anywhere in my drawing. I have some white down there, so I'm just gonna go back in and cover it up. So it just kind of takes a minute to kind of get what you want. And then let's go back to this. So this is a shading guide right here if you want to use it. Here's where you have shadows. This is where you have highlights. You're not actually making lines and dots, but you know you can have some shadow here on that part of the eye. It's kind of like a cheat sheet. So I did some shadow there. You can have some shadow under the eye. Kind of use this as your guide. Okay. And then for highlights, you could use some white. You can have this part of your lip highlighted. The nose right here would be highlighted. So you can kind of use this as a guide when you're doing your oil pastels.